The air in the diner was thick with the smell of frying bacon, fresh coffee, and polished silverware. It was the kind of quiet morning where small moments usually go unnoticed, until chaos broke through. Amaka, a young black waitress, balanced, a tray of steaming pancakes and orange juice, her hands steady despite the early morning rush. She had always known the eyes followed her, sometimes admiring, often judging. But nothing could have prepared her for him. At a corner table, a well-dressed man in a crisp suit, the kind people whispered about as a millionaire, snapped his fingers impatiently. "Hurry up! Is this restaurant running on slow motion today?" His voice was sharp, slicing through the diner like glass. Amaka approached, offering a polite smile. That smile vanished in an instant. With one swift, shocking motion, he grabbed her shirt and ripped it off, exposing a tattoo that no one had ever seen before. The diner went silent. Every jaw dropped, every fork paused mid-air, and in that unbearable silence, Amaka's heartbeat screamed, "How did it come to this?" But this was only the beginning. If you were in her place, what would you do? The diner had always been Amaka's second home. The smell of sizzling bacon and coffee wasn't just food. It was the soundtrack to her life. She knew every regular, every creak in the wooden floor, every squeak of the swivel chairs. It was comforting. Until the world outside reminded her it didn't see her the same way she saw herself. Amaka, 25, stood tall but careful, her natural curls tucked beneath a neat apron. Her tattoo, a delicate black rose intertwined with a broken chain, was hidden under her uniform, a secret she carried like a private piece of strength. She had inherited resilience from her mother, who had taught her early. "They may not see you, Amaka, but you must always see yourself." Her friend and co-worker, Jamal, 28, leaned against the counter. He had been working at the diner for nearly 5 years. His easy smile and protective instincts were a quiet shield for Amaka. "You okay this morning?" he asked, noticing the tension in her shoulders. "I'll be fine," she replied, adjusting her apron. But inside, the memory of the millionaire's gaze lingered, sharp and entitled, like it could cut through anything in its path. Across town, Miles Carrington, the millionaire, polished his watch in his penthouse office. His life was one of precision and control, yet he thrived on small displays of power, especially over those he considered beneath him. Privilege had closed his eyes to empathy, and arrogance made him believe the world existed to obey his whims. Back in the diner, Amaka faced subtle reminders of bias every day. Yet Amaka's life was not only hardship. She had dreams, opening her own cafe, combining her love for cooking with a safe space for the community. She spent nights sketching menus, budgeting on scraps of paper, imagining a place where dignity came first. One day, while stacking plates, she overheard a conversation from the millionaire's table. His words dripped condescension, subtle yet poisonous. "Some people just don't belong in these spaces," he said, smirking. "They're lucky anyone serves them at all." Amaka clenched her fists under the counter. Mini cliffhanger. How could someone so arrogant, so blind to humanity, exist steps away from her daily life? Jamal often stayed late with her, sharing small victories and commiserating over tiny humiliations. "One day," he whispered during a quiet cleanup, "you'll show them what they can't take away. I know it." Meanwhile, Amaka's mother, Clara, was a gentle, stoic presence, constantly reminding her, "Strength is silent, but it's always heard, eventually." In these moments, the diner transformed. It became a cocoon of warmth, resilience, and whispered dreams. Yet outside, tension simmered. Every glance from privileged strangers, every curt interaction, chipped away at that calm. Mini cliffhanger. Would her dream ever survive the storm brewing outside these walls? One evening, Amaka noticed a familiar luxury car parked across the street. its sleek black surface reflecting the diner's neon lights. She froze. Her tattoo itched under her sleeve, a reminder that she was more than what anyone could see at a glance. The millionaire was coming, not just for breakfast, but for control, for humiliation, for the twisted satisfaction of asserting dominance. And for the first time, Amaka realized that surviving wasn't enough. She had to be ready. Mini cliffhanger. Could she stand up to someone who had never known what it was like to be seen as less? The diner had closed for the night. Outside, the city hummed with life, car horns, distant sirens, muffled laughter. Inside, Amaka and Jamal sat at a corner booth, lit only by the dim glow of the neon closed sign. Between them lay not menus or receipts, but scraps of paper covered in scribbled ideas, sketches, and notes. "We can't just let him walk away with this," Jamal whispered. His voice was low, as if he feared the walls themselves might betray them. "You can't let him humiliate you like that. Not in front of everyone." Amaka's hands trembled as she traced the outline of her tattoo under the table. "It's not just about me," she said softly. "It's every time someone assumes we're less, every look, every whisper. This is bigger." They spoke in whispers for hours, planning carefully. Each idea was weighed against risk. Confrontation could lead to public backlash, exposure, or even physical danger. But doing nothing had a cost, too. The slow erosion of dignity, respect, and self-worth. "We need witnesses," Amaka said finally, meeting Jamal's eyes. "Someone who sees what happens without fear." Jamal nodded. "I know a few regulars, people who care. But you have to be ready. He's not just arrogant, he's ruthless. If he suspects anything, he'll try to destroy it before it even happens." Amaka swallowed hard. "Ruthless?" "Yes. But no one knows what I'm capable of either." The room seemed to close in around them. The smell of coffee grounds lingered, sweet and bitter, grounding them in reality. Every creak of the floor sounded like a countdown, a reminder that time was slipping, and the millionaire's next visit could come at any moment. Mini cliffhanger. Would they have enough time to plan, or would the subsequent humiliation happen before they could act? As the plan took shape, hope surged. They drafted ideas, including social media exposure, anonymous tips to journalists, and documenting everything, photographs, receipts, and audio recordings. "We can make sure everyone knows what he did," Amaka said, a spark of fire in her voice, but despair crept in quickly. "What if it backfires?" Jamal asked. "What if people blame you instead?" The fear in his eyes mirrored her own. "People always choose the millionaire. They always do." Amaka clenched her fists. "Then we'll remind them why courage matters more than money." Her voice, soft but unwavering, carried the weight of her ancestors. Mini cliffhanger. Could they really challenge someone with the world behind him? Amaka's mind raced as she imagined confrontation. Every step must be perfect. Every word is precise. One mistake, and it's not just me. It's everyone who believes in fairness. Late into the night, Jamal suggested involving Clara, Amaka's mother. Her calm, stoic presence would help ground the plan and provide an emotional anchor. "She's wise. She's fearless," Jamal said. "If anyone can guide us through, it's her." Amaka nodded. "You're right. I can't do this alone. I never wanted to, but now I need everyone who believes in justice." Mini cliffhanger. Would her mother agree? Could they trust anyone fully in a world so willing to ignore them? "Don't let him see fear," Jamal reminded her quietly one night after a particularly close encounter. "Even a flicker of it, and he'll know he still owns you." Amaka's heart pounded. The diner's ambient sounds, the clinking dishes, distant traffic, the low hum of the neon sign, amplifying her anxiety. This is it. Every moment counts. Every breath counts. I can't fail. Mini cliffhanger. Would her courage hold when the moment of truth arrived? Or would the weight of fear crush her? Every late-night discussion ended with a silent understanding. The diner would never be the same again. The tattoo, once hidden, symbolized more than personal pride. It was a signal, a quiet declaration of resilience. And as Amaka gazed at it one evening under the dim kitchen light, she whispered to herself, "They will see. They all will." Mini cliffhanger. But would the world be ready to witness the truth, or would it turn away, just like always? The diner buzzed with an unusual energy that morning. The aroma of brewing coffee mingled with nervous tension, and the usual clatter of plates seemed muted. Patrons felt it too, an unspoken electricity. Something was about to happen. Amaka stood. Behind the counter, her apron crisp, hands steady, heart pounding. Every muscle was tense, every breath measured. Today wasn't just another shift. Today, the world would see. The bell above the door jingled. He had arrived. Miles Carrington, the millionaire, impeccably dressed, walked in with the arrogance of someone who believed the universe bent for him. His sharp eyes scanned the diner, landing on Amaka with a predator's focus. "Morning," he said, voice smooth, but laced with contempt. "Make it quick this time." Amaka met his gaze, unflinching. Inside, her pulse screamed, "Don't falter! This is your moment!" Suddenly, the diner doors opened wider. Journalists, regular patrons, and witnesses slipped inside, discreetly invited by Amaka and Jamal over the past few days. Cameras clicked quietly. Phones recorded. Every movement was documented. Miles noticed the subtle shift immediately. "What is this?" he demanded, his usual composure cracking slightly. Amaka stepped forward. Her tattoo peeked from under her sleeve, as she raised her arm deliberately. The black rose and broken chain were no longer hidden. They were a statement, a declaration. "This," she said, voice steady, cutting through the room like steel, "is what you couldn't erase. Every humiliation, every whispered insult, every moment you thought you could make me feel less than human, this is me." The diner went silent. Every fork paused mid-air, every eye fixed on her. A murmur spread through the room. I didn't realize," a patron whispered. She's amazing." Miles's face turned pale. Anger, confusion, panic, emotions collided in rapid succession. He stepped forward, attempting to assert dominance, but the room no longer obeyed him. Cameras flashed. Witnesses nodded. Every word he had uttered, every action he had taken, was now visible to the world. Mini cliffhanger. Would he try to fight back, or would the truth finally crush him? At that moment, Clara, Amaka's mother, emerged from the corner with quiet authority. "It's over, Miles," she said. "Not because you're weak, but because the world is finally seeing what we've always lived with. The truth." A security guard, previously loyal to Carrington, stepped forward. "She's right," he said. "I've seen enough. I won't let this continue." The room erupted, not in chaos, but in unified acknowledgement of justice. Miles's arrogance crumbled under the weight of collective recognition and evidence he could no longer suppress. Amaka's hands shook, not from fear, but from adrenaline and triumph. She looked around at the diner, at the faces of people who had once ignored her struggle, now witnessing it firsthand. Her dream of dignity and respect had taken a public form. Jamal approached, eyes shining. "You did it," he whispered. "You showed them all." Her heartbeat slowed as the realization sank in. I survived. I stood tall. And finally, I am seen. Mini cliffhanger. Would justice continue beyond these walls, Or was this moment just fleeting? Miles, defeated, slumped into a chair, unable to summon the control he once wielded effortlessly. Every insult, every act of superiority he had attempted to assert over Amaka and others in the diner was now documented, visible, and undeniable. Amaka took a deep breath and spoke, voice calm but assertive. "This is not just about me. It's about every person who's ever been silenced, dismissed, or humiliated. And today, we choose to be heard." The diner erupted in applause. Cameras clicked, phones recorded. The moment was electric, monumental, unrepeatable. Mini cliffhanger. Would this confrontation change society's perception, or would the world continue to turn its back? The diner never felt the same again. The morning sun streamed through the windows, glinting off the polished silverware, casting long shadows across the floor where history had just been made. Patrons whispered excitedly, replaying the events. In their minds, their expressions a mix of awe, guilt, and newfound respect. Amaka stood behind the counter, still gripping her tray. The adrenaline from the confrontation had ebbed, replaced by a calm, almost surreal awareness. She had faced him, the millionaire who had tried to strip away her dignity, and she had won. Not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever been told they were less than. Miles Carrington, once the embodiment of arrogance, had left the diner in disgrace. His power evaporated the moment the crowd saw the truth. Calls from journalists, notifications from social media, and texts from witnesses flooded in, documenting his humiliations for the world to see. The man who had believed money and status could silence people now had nothing but exposure and shame. The regulars, people who had quietly endured his snide remarks or ignored them in fear, now looked at Amaka differently. She wasn't just a waitress. She was a symbol of courage, of dignity reclaimed. Conversations shifted. People shared their own experiences of injustice, inspired by the courage she had shown. Jamal approached, smiling with relief and pride. "You did it," he said softly. "You made them all see." Amaka exhaled, a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. Her tattoo, once a hidden piece of strength, had become a visible emblem of resilience. It wasn't just art on her skin. It was a story, a statement, a declaration that no one could erase. News of the incident spread quickly. Local outlets interviewed Amaka. Social media amplified her story, trending hashtags emerging overnight. Justice for Amaka. Courage exposed. Black strength. Offers came in, not just for recognition, but for opportunities she had dreamed of for years, speaking engagements, interviews, and even offers to open her own cafe with community backing. But the valid reward wasn't fame or fortune. It was validation, respect, and the knowledge that she had stood tall when the world expected her to bow. Amaka's mother, Clara, hugged her tightly behind the counter. "You've done what I always knew you could," she whispered. "You've shown the world who you really are." Tears welled in Amaka's eyes. For a moment, the weight of fear, humiliation, and doubt lifted entirely. Every sleepless night, every quiet struggle, every microaggression had led to this moment of triumph. Jamal clapped her on the shoulder. "People will remember today. And not just for the scandal. They'll remember you, your courage, your strength." Amaka nodded, glancing around the diner. Patrons were whispering, some taking photos, others sharing stories of similar struggles. The restaurant had transformed into a symbol of justice reclaimed. In this place, courage had spoken louder than wealth and privilege. Mini cliffhanger. Even with this victory, what would the future hold? Could the world continue to uphold justice, or would the shadows of prejudice creep back in? The diner had returned to its familiar rhythm, the clatter of plates, the hum of conversation, but nothing felt ordinary anymore. What had happened that morning was more than a confrontation. It was a statement, a reminder that courage and integrity could not be bought or silenced. Amaka's story was not just about one waitress standing up to a millionaire. It was about every person who has ever been underestimated, dismissed, or made to feel invisible. Her victory was a testament to the power of resilience, the strength of truth, and the importance of standing tall even when the world expects you to bow. Her tattoo, once a hidden secret, had become a symbol of defiance and hope. The black rose, entwined with a broken chain, was no longer ink on skin. It was a story of perseverance, a declaration that dignity cannot be stripped away, and a visual reminder that strength comes from within. The true lesson is simple, yet profound. Injustice thrives when silence prevails. When we let humiliation, discrimination, or abuse go unchecked, it perpetuates a cycle that crushes dreams and breaks spirits. But when someone dares to confront it, to speak up, and to reclaim their power, change becomes possible. Even small acts of courage ripple outward, inspiring others to find their voice and stand tall. So, what if this happened in your workplace, your school, or your neighborhood? Would you stay silent, or would you find the courage to stand up, not just for yourself, but for those who cannot? Amaka's story reminds us that courage isn't always loud, but it is always felt. It isn't just about defeating a single injustice. It's about creating a world where dignity, respect, and humanity are recognized, no matter the color of one's skin or the size of one's bank account. If you were in her place, what would you do? Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell someone about this story. Spread the message that standing up matters, because every act of bravery, no matter how small, has the power to ignite change.